Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host, and yes, we are talking about Bill and Frank today. This is a video I've been thinking about making for a couple days now, pretty much since I watched episode 3 of The Last of Us. And it was a video I wanted to put off on making because I wanted to watch the episode multiple more times to fully get my thoughts out and to see if there's anything I missed, anything that I could really talk more about. And I'm gonna try to keep this brief. I don't want this video to be excessively long, but I really want to talk about this because I feel this is extremely important. So I will say right off the bat, this video will have spoilers for episode 3 and probably the first 2 episodes to some degree of The Last of Us. If you have not watched the first 3 episodes, and especially episode 3, I would suggest not watching this video until you have. But if you have watched the first 2 episodes, and if you have especially watched episode 3, then yeah, all is good. But we will begin talking about everything, including spoilers, in 3, 2, 1, now. So I'm very familiar with the game of The Last of Us. I've seen many Let's Plays. I've never played it personally myself, but I've seen many Let's Plays. And so I know the story, and I know Bill's story in it. In the game, Bill is someone you meet while navigating through his kind of abandoned little town. He's in this town that he has set up numerous traps all around for. He ends up finding you and everything while you're going around trying not to set off his traps and everything. And you end up working with him, although he's curmudgeon-y about it, to help get a truck battery and everything so you can, get out of there and continue on. And during the course of the events of the game, you come in contact with a bunch of infected, including the first appearance of a bloater, the big-ass infected. So that's fun. And you find out through this that Frank at one point that Bill at one point had a partner named Frank. That they had a fight, an argument, and a falling out, and eventually got separated. You eventually learn that Frank died. He committed suicide when he got infected to avoid turning. And he left a note for Bill to find after the fact. And through that and through some other dialogue from when Ellie finds one of his magazines and you get some dialogue after they leave, you find out that Bill is gay and that Frank was his partner. But you don't really get a great look into their lives. So when the series started coming out and all, that was one of the things a lot of us wanted, to get a better look into Bill and Frank's lives. And seeing that they were cast and everything, seeing that Frank had a specific actor cast to him, it's like we assumed we would. And of course, Bill was cast for Nick Offerman, who a lot of people know from Parks and Rec and everything. When I think of Nick Offerman, though, I think of Agent Powers from Gravity Falls. So, a voice role, but that's fun. And the other guy, Murray Bartlett, plays Frank, and I looked him up, and I don't think I've seen anything with him in it. Or at least nothing that I recognize him for. Because I didn't recognize any of his roles. But, yeah, so in this we get to see Bill's backstory, starting all the way back when the infection began. We see that he was a kind of doomsday prepper of sorts, or as he likes to call it, a survivalist, who, once everything started happening and the government started evacuating the small town he was in, he was in an underground sub-basement bunker and then just basically took over the town after they left. He raided a nearby Home Depot. He got everything set up, a fence surrounding the perimeter, traps set up. He basically built this self-sustained uh, land for himself, a homestead of sorts. And eventually, Frank falls into one of his pitfalls. And he reluctantly invites Frank in for food after they talk a little bit, and he confirms that Frank is not infected. And after dinner, Frank goes over to the piano, starts playing, but he's not very good at it, so instead Bill starts playing and is like not only really good at it, but is really fucking emotional about it. And it's like you can feel his soul in the way he plays and sings. Which, damn, Nick Offerman, I did not know he could sing. But he's actually pretty good. But Frank connects with him at that moment, and being able to be that vulnerable with Frank also allows Bill to connect, and they fall in love. Like, right from that point. They share a kiss, they have sex, it shows that they have sex. You don't get to see anything, so don't worry about that, you perverts, but... and they live their lives together. It cuts to the future a couple times, and we get to see like them living their lives and enjoying themselves. We get to see how they even end up becoming friends with Joel and Tess. And then at the end, it cuts to the current day, and we see that Frank has become sick. He's come down with an unnamed illness. It's unclear what it is, and there's a lot of theories that people have been throwing around, and I don't know. But he's come down with an illness to where he's in a wheelchair. He can't move on his own very well at all, and he's just not doing well. So one morning, Bill wakes up to find that Frank has painstakingly gotten himself into his chair, and he tells Bill that this is going to be his last day. That he doesn't want to live this way anymore. That he wants to go out on his own terms. And Bill is not comfortable with this. He's a crying mess, and he doesn't want to let him go. But he eventually accepts it and goes along with what Frank wants to do. They get married. Even if it's not like officially recognized by anything, they get married. They have a nice dinner, the same dinner they had the night they met. Some nice duck with some great wine. And then Bill fills an after-dinner wine glass of his with some crushed up pills, enough to overdose on. Only for Frank to find out that the wine itself, the bottle, already had crushed up pills in it, enough to kill a horse, according to Bill. And so that they're going to die together. They go off into their bedroom, and that's the last we see of them. Leading into a scene afterwards of Joel and Ellie coming upon their homestead and finding everything out. But that's not what I want to talk about here. I want to talk about Bill and Frank. If you've been on the internet since Sunday night, you'll have heard about this because everybody is raving. This is, without question, one of the best episodes of television, period. It is so perfectly written, so perfectly directed, acted, paced, everything. It is a perfect, beautiful love story between a man who had trouble trusting others. And his husband, who just wanted to bring a little happiness into the world. It was absolutely stunning how good it was. But the thing that you have to account for here is that it was not just an absolutely beautiful love story, but a gay love story. I make it very clear on this channel how much queer representation in media means to me. I run a panel at conventions for it. And at least this past year at YomaCon, it got actually a lot of very positive feedback, which is awesome to hear. So it's no secret that I very much value this kind of stuff. Like, you guys know from me watching stuff like Dead End Paranormal Park and The Owl House and whatnot, that queer representation is a big deal for me. This is probably one of the best examples of that I can think of. Like, I'm not even fucking kidding you. This is... I almost want to say this is better than Lumity. Which is fucking insane to even verbalize that out loud. It's at least just as good. And the thing that really makes it work is the actors. Murray Bartlett is a queer actor. He is gay, and does have a partner. And he's very open about it. He's very just real about it. And while Nick Offerman isn't, he was the right person to play this role. Because the chemistry he had with Murray Bartlett was cosmic. Like, in terms of live action, I don't think I've seen two actors have chemistry better than these two have. They were like, when Nick Offerman's face was first shown, like, my thought was, there's Nick Offerman and everything. But everything after that, especially with when Frank came into play, I was entirely lost in the characters. That wasn't Nick Offerman to me anymore. That was Bill. That wasn't Murray Bartlett to me. That was Frank. They captured these characters so well. They so perfectly had the right actors who just had perfect chemistry with each other, that it's astounding to me. And on top of that, this is such a major deviation from the game. Like I said, in the game, you never meet Frank. He's already dead. And Bill and him had a fight and, split up. And you get to see Bill's emotion at losing Frank, but you never see their relationship. Not to mention, you playing as Joel and Ellie have interactions with Bill, where in this series, that never happens. Like, Bill had interactions with Joel in the past, but in the current day, he and Frank are already dead by the time Joel and Ellie get there. This was such a major deviation from the game, but this, proves without question that changes are not bad. This change made Bill as a character and Frank and just this entire section of the story better than the game. It made it actively better in every possible way. to me, this is Bill and Frank, not what we had in the game. This is them. And it's perfection. And it honestly makes me, like, overall prefer the series currently. Now that could change. That, I mean, I don't know how it's going to continue to go, but right now I think that the series is doing it better. And that includes with the first and second episode. We saw with, like, the clickers and everything in episode 2. Just the more depth we were given with Sarah in episode 1. Like, all of the changes have elevated the story to new heights. All of the changes have actively helped this story work better. And their biggest change so far, at least, has been the biggest improvement over the game. Having such a positive, beautiful, perfectly written, directed, and handled gay love story on television is revolutionary. And while I don't like award shows because they're mostly all rigged, like, if anyone deserves an award, it's Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett. It's the director of this episode. It's the writers. It's everyone who made this happen. The episode itself. Like, we have reached peak television here. I have watched this episode probably 8 times now. Somewhere like that, like just under 10. And every time I have bawled. Not just cried, bawled. I have laughed. I have just felt intense warmth in my very fucking soul. When Frank gives Bill the strawberry and Bill takes a bite and he just lets out that wholesome, beautiful giggle, it is the most serotonin-inducing moment I think I have seen in almost anything. He's eating a strawberry and giggling, and somehow it just delivers such a massive blast of happiness into my brain, such a massive blast of wholesome joy that it astounds me. Seeing them grow old together, seeing them, yes, fight and argue, but also seeing them love on each other. Their kisses, their hugs, their just protectiveness of each other. And the fact that they go out on their own terms, choosing to end things by their own decision rather than becoming infected or being killed by raiders or anything. Like, they had probably the best lives of anyone in this apocalypse. And they fucking deserved it. They deserved it. This is important. This episode, these characters, this story, this gay love story is important. Because this is without question going to revolutionize queer representation in media. With how big this is, with how beloved this episode has become, with how well received this has been. Like, there have been some naysayers, yes, there have been some homophobes and whatnot making themselves known who have just been bitching about this, and some extremist, what would it be called? There's a word for it. You know, like Gen 1ers from Pokemon. So the people who just can't let go of the past and think everything has to stay the same. Some extremist, ridiculous people like that. those people have outed themselves, but they've been so far exceptionally in the minority. Everyone is raving about this episode. Everyone is praising it. Everyone is talking about it. And everyone's loving it. I have watched so many reactions now, and every single one has had the reactors crying. Every single one. And it's just like, it's perfection. It's perfection. And the fact that it's getting this attention, that it's so well received, this is going to change shit. This show was already doing exceptionally. This was already really doing well. But the fact that you then have this and it's so well received, it's like, this is going to get people talking. This is going to get more super positive, healthy, loving queer relationships in media. It just is. It's like the first time you saw Into the Spider-Verse and realized, like, this, see how this is animated? This is going to revolutionize animation. And it has. It's the same thing with this. This is without question going to revolutionize queer representation in media. And it is so fucking good that it's doing so. This was a wake-up call for the studios and everything who were still holding on to that idea that people weren't interested in queer representation, that people didn't want that it was going to get, that it would get them to lose money on their games or their movies or their shows. This is a wake-up call to all those studios, all those directors, all those writers who have been on the wrong side of history and who have been continuing to push down on proper queer representation. The studios who have canceled movies and shows and games because of queer rep. It's like, this is going to be big. And I am so fucking ecstatic for that. Because this means we will get more. And that is so important. So let me know in the comments below, what did you think of episode 3 of The Last of Us? What did you think of Bill and Frank's absolutely beautiful love story? And how it elevated this series so much? Let me know your thoughts down below. And for now, thank you for tuning in. I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.